How's it going, everybody? It is the Kage Level Fox Series. My channel. I want to talk about anime, video games, cartoons, most notably Sonic and Ninja Turtles. And today, I'm here to talk about some anime. Yep, that's right. If you read the title of the video, you know what this is going to be about, but I'm going to just tell you anyways. I wanted to kind of talk about the representation of black people inside anime. Now, this is actually inspired based off of that live stream that I had did with Jay Leno not too long ago about black superheroes and stuff and why they don't sell. So if you guys are interested, go check that out. And this is not made to be all ill will or anything like that. I just want to put out my opinion out there because this isn't the first time I've seen this go around where I've seen other people talk about, oh my god, anime is so racist to black people and blah blah blah. And here's my response to that. So let's get right into it. With the growing popularity of anime becoming more mainstream, some normies or tourists try to go and find problematic things about anime to have something to kind of complain about. But this one is actually a long-standing argument that's been around since anime has come to the West about how anime used to portray black people with the big pink lips in the past. People who take offense to this try to bring up Mr. Popo because he's as dark as an ace of spades, even though he's not a human. Because if you know your Dragon Ball lore, you know that, or if you at least go in the Dragon Ball Wikipedia, Mr. Popo is actually considered to be a demigod, and he's actually based off a Hindu deity. And Dragon Ball's characters are mostly based off of like Asian or Chinese mythologies, like Goku, who's based off of Sun Wukong, the folklore hero, or Tien, who's based off the Cyclops that fought Sun Wukong, I believe, or Chaozu. I don't know what Chaozu's based off of, but I mean, I don't really see a whole lot of white people complain about Chaozu. And oh, he's doing whiteface, but it's always got to be Mr. Popo. Oh, he's doing blackface. Oh, he's a caricature of us, even though he's based off of Hindu mythology. But another popular example is Officer Black from Dragon Ball, but since he was killed off, he's not as used as sparingly as Mr. Popo, who acts as a positive mentor for Goku, and I doubt Akira Toriyama meant any offense by it, given how Officer Black was written. Unlike some of those loser black people that kind of bashed him over this after his death, and oh, I don't like Akira Toriyama and stuff. Oh, thank goodness he died or whatever. Like it comes off as insensitive, inappropriate, ignorant, and honestly kind of counterproductive to me, because it's kind of like when Hulk Hogan had passed away. Like people were trying to bring up and be like, oh well, Hulk Hogan he was a racist and stuff, even though he said something in a private conversation that shouldn't have been recorded. But but that's the thing about us black people is that we're really caught up inside like this bubble or this whole like self-image kind of thing where like we're like thinking about how other people like perceive us or other people's beliefs about us and stuff instead of actually like putting that time and energy into like I don't know, trying to lead a more exemplary life or trying to like prove them wrong and stuff like that, because how are you going to change somebody else's mind if you're going to like, oh well, have that hate and that animosity back towards them, even if like when they pass away and stuff. That's why I say it's counterproductive, if anything.
Tell me why I'm scrolling through Twitter, right? And I see this tweet come across my timeline that says, y'all are saying rest in power for a man who literally designed this racist ass character design. Now, we all watch Dragon Ball Z, so we've seen Mr. Popo before, but I can understand why this person got mad because this nigga looks like it. Look at this nigga. I can't believe this nigga chose to disrespect Akira Toriyama on the day of his death. Well, since you want to send Akira Toriyama off with that, let's see if we can send you off with this. Nigga, if you don't get your big ass Bridget from Trolls Rage, Shinron, Elder Guru, Majin Buu, Fat Gotenks, Hoggers, Great League, Janemba, Black Yajirobe, Luffy, Get for a Tank Man, Grimace, Queen, Big Mom, Gloria from Madagascar, PJ from a Goofy movie, Grow Sister, Rasputia, B&B the Fag Man, Steel from Juice, Phazon Love, Big X the Plug. Look at this fat ass nigga. Fat nigga from 8 Mile, built ass, the fuck up out of here.
But for what it's worth, I think Officer Black is one of the best OG Dragon Ball villains. I would say like, before him is obviously like King Piccolo, Piccolo Jr., Mercenary Tao, Tambourine, and I think Officer Black is kind of right up there with Shin and General Blue, pretty much, But I mean, they're obviously leagues better than like Commander Red or Emperor Pilaf and stuff, who are more like joke characters in comparison. So, as you know his story, he killed his boss, Commander Red, after he had wasted the majority of their manpower on like basically a pointless wish, and then he kind of became the true antagonist of the Red Ribbon Saga, which the Red Ribbon Saga is like one of the most iconic storylines in all of the Dragon Ball series, and it's always the linchpin of where everybody keeps returning back to the Red Ribbon Saga when it comes to the androids, when it comes to Cell, Super 17, whatever. They always kind of return back to the Red Ribbon Saga for some whatever reason. Cell Max, you name it. But anyways, if he was meant to be more of a caricature, then he would have been written to be more of a joke, right? Or how some people kind of accept Piccolo, who is an alien, light green skinned slug man who claims to be the Demon King, as black, just because Piccolo has like sort of this like attitude and stuff like that, and he just screams kind of Black Air Force energy kind of thing, and this no tolerance kind of, yeah. But Piccolo's not black. It just started off as a joke, where a lot of us just some people kind of just took it a little bit too literal.
We all know that Piccolo is darn near black, and the black community adopted Piccolo. That's what I felt like DC Martian Manhunter was, a black character that the black community can adopt.
And even if you want to think that Piccolo is black coded or he's based off of a black person or whatever, Piccolo was still one of Akira Toriyama's favorite characters. I mean, that's kind of the reason why like Piccolo kept coming back, whether it was King Piccolo to Piccolo Jr., the Namekians, revisiting a lot of lore, retconning a lot of lore and stuff with the Namekians, or rehashing stuff like that, whatever, or finding some kind of way to sort of put Piccolo into the story. Dragon Ball superheroes, like, yes, Akira Toriyama, like Piccolo is like actually Akira Toriyama's favorite character. And to use Dragon Ball as like a reference to like, oh, well, this is how the Japanese like to depict black people and stuff. Well, first off, I know Dragon Ball Z is like the most, like one of the most iconic animes in the world and all that stuff. Like, I get that. But you gotta also remember too, Dragon Ball was created back in the early 80s, okay? So of course the Japanese aren't gonna know, oh, well, what's offensive to black people or what's not offensive to black people, because it was animated back in the 80s, okay? And even like, yeah, it may have came out in like what, 86 or something. But you also gotta know too, like when it comes to animation, especially like hand drawn cell animation and all that stuff, that stuff can take up to years. So Dragon Ball was already probably in development around like what, 1984 or 1985 probably, and they probably just didn't know. It happens. And by the time Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z came to America, that was like around the 90s to like the 2000s. So like I said, that's such an outdated like thing like to like bring up and be like, oh, well, anime is racist or anime doesn't depict black characters right, even though there's plenty of other like animes out there that actually does a better job or has a different style, because like times have changed. All right, so I'm about to talk about a little bit of Street Fighter. I know Street Fighter is a video game series and not really an anime, although it has a few anime adaptations and it is made over in the East. But I'm gonna talk a little bit about Balrog, since Balrog is he's one of the main black characters inside Street Fighter that's usually featured the most, especially since he's one of Bison's 4 generals. Street Fighter has a few anime adaptations, and Balrog does have the Sambo lips in some versions, and he's kind of meant, because those are the 90s, and he was meant to be like one of Bison's enforcers and the lieutenants of Shadowloo, kind of like Sagat, Vega, Fang, or Birdie. But people are fixated on Balrog's portrayal as a black representation and stuff, but they don't bring up the more positive characters like, I don't know, Elena, Kimberly, DJ, Dudley, positive black characters from Street Fighter. And I get it, like, these characters aren't really brought up a lot because they were introduced a little bit later, like Street Fighter 3 or Street Fighter 6, like Kimberly. So Balrog kind of is like the, he's the most iconic black character in Street Fighter, but I also get he's kind of like the resonant, like, token, if you will, of like Street Fighter. But, and he's also based off of Mike Tyson, so that's also a lot that, Balrog has going for him that makes him like the most iconic and whatnot. Like the only character that's been around just as long as like Balrog, as far as like, oh, the black character and stuff goes, is really DJ, which is kind of weird because in that Jean-Claude Van Damme movie they switched DJ and Balrog's roles, where like instead Balrog's actually a good guy in that version, and then DJ is a bad guy working for Shadowloo and kind of has that greedy thing going on that Balrog has. So that's a little, I guess, ironic. But anyways, but to me, Balrog is just a character that I never really had like high expectations for anyways, because I mean, he is what he is. Like, he's supposed to be like that brutish enforcer type character. But in the last 3 Street Fighter games, they've been actually trying to do a lot more with Balrog's character, more so than what I thought. And that's actually like, they actually like in Street Fighter 4 and like Balrog's ending, they actually like, Balrog had taken in this kid named Ed and stuff. He's supposed to be like a body double for Bison, where he's got like psycho powers and stuff. And Balrog was like, all right, well, he might be worth some money someday, so I'll see what he can do. And then in between like Street Fighter 4 and 5, Balrog actually grew kind of attached to Ed, and he decided to, he took him in, raised him like his own son and everything. What else has Balrog done? And then, we see their dynamic inside Street Fighter 5, right? And then, eventually, like, they went their separate ways, and Balrog, he's not a playable character inside Street Fighter 6. But Ed takes his place and becomes, like, a downloadable character and everything in there, just like how he was inside Street Fighter 5. And, Ed, he looks up to Balrog still and whatnot, and he's also the leader of Neo Shadowloo, and he also became, like, this badass.
Damn it! There's gotta be some treasure around here somewhere!
Help me!
Well, this must be my lucky day. Hey!
Yes?
What can you do anyway?
Like what?
If you're supposed to be a replacement body for him, you gotta do something. Can you fly or see the future or what?
I'm sorry. By myself,
You can't do nothing by yourself, huh? Even more worthless than I thought. Well, I saved you, so you better do something for me.
Bring it! You don't know when to quit. Told you I don't want anything to do with you losers. Get lost! Show up again and I'll punch a hole through you.
So just imagine somebody with like M. Bison's powers basically, but he fights like Balrog pretty much. And I've kind of covered before that in the comics, Balrog actually gave Cody Travers a pretty good speech that kind of turned his life around, which led to him becoming the mayor of Metro City. And this is in the Street Fighter Final Fight Free Comic Book Day comic. But I'm just saying, so again, where's the maliciousness in the writing? And you're probably wondering, well, so what if Balrog had taken in somebody and trained him and stuff and raised him like his own son? I mean, I feel like that alone kind of gives Balrog a lot of depth and stuff compared to what he had before. And I mean, to be honest, not every character like really needs like a lot of depth or really needs like a motivation or whatever. I mean, like sometimes it's okay to just be a little bit generic with certain characters and stuff, you know. And I mean, Street Fighter is no short of them, especially with Shadowloo. I mean, the only characters really that has depth like that is probably M Bison and Sagat, but you know, before that. But I mean, like characters like what Birdie, Fang, or like what Vega and stuff, who's like Balrog's like complete polar opposite. Where like Vega, he's a Spanish ninja and stuff that's always obsessed about his looks and how pretty he is and stuff like that. And you know, he usually assaults women. I mean, I kind of prefer Balrog and how he is over Vega, you know, even though Vega is an interesting villain. But I'm just saying, like, I mean, at least Balrog has more redeemable qualities in comparison, right? But anyways, but yeah, but it's not like again Balrog's like my favorite character or anything, or even my main in Street Fighter. Like my mains would usually be like I don't know Ryu, Ken, Sagat, Ibuki, Elena, or something. You know, like those are usually like my mains inside Street Fighter for the most part, or the characters that I normally go to. But anyways, let's continue back to like the anime and the black representation. Now let's talk about the big three of anime: Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach. I'll start with One Piece, where most of the black characters have the pink lips, but if you've seen Oda's style, every character is just about as a caricature like the giants such as Big Mom or the muscle bound guys like Frankie. And despite the features, they're still kind of written like characters like Usopp, Yasip, Aokiji, Mr. One, you know, Diaz the Bones, Tech, you know, Blackbeard. Usopp is South African on his dad's side, but he gets his long nose from his mom. But Usopp is like the most resourceful member of the Straw Hats and one of Luffy's best friends. So I'm like, so if he was meant to be a racist caricature, wouldn't Usopp be like, you know, kind of like, oh, a constant, like, well, he is a, sort of a comedic type of character, but still. But they wouldn't really put this much effort into writing his character, though, right? If they or make him a member of the crew. And then, of course, you know, his dad, Yasip, you know, he has a bit of a Gon Jing kind of relationship with, you know, like how they have it inside Hunter x Hunter. That's the kind of thing that Usopp and Yasip kind of have. But, you know, where Usopp admires his dad and stuff, despite never really meeting him, being a great pirate and stuff, and being a part of Shanks' legendary crew. Yasip is pretty a big deal for that alone, and the best sniper inside One Piece so far right now. Until eventually Usopp will like probably surpass him, but still. Then of course you have Aokiji. Before he kind of stepped down, he used to be like kind of my favorite admiral and all that. Or you have Diaz the Bones, who is one of Crocodile's strongest pirates after himself, and he actually had a pretty good and brutal fight with Zoro, so that's a pretty big deal. Or Marshall D. Tech, you know, he's kind of being developed to be like Luffy's ultimate rival because he's Blackbeard. Now let's move on to Naruto and their depiction of black people. Now, a lot of the black characters stem from the Cloud Village, like the third and the fourth Raikages, or Dorai, who's the fifth Raikage, or Karui, and of course Killer Bee himself. And let's not forget how Karui has a daughter with Choji, you know, Chocho, where they actually, the three of them live in the village together, or Fu, the Seven Tails Jinchuriki, who, like the others, with the exception of Naruto, Bee, and Gaara, are kind of wasted because, you know, they're kind of used as a plot device to kind of like, you know, for the Akatsuki and stuff to, you know, absorb the tail beast and all that. And since, you know, they had to die for that, they kind of got the short end of the stick for, you know. And of course, my favorite black character of the Naruto universe is Killer Bee. So some people kind of complain about how he's always like rapping and stuff because it's stereotypical, but I actually like his upbeat and positive behavior. Yes, it's quirky, but a lot of anime characters have quirks. He also is a mentor and a surrogate uncle, actually, to the main hero himself, Naruto. So I'm like, yeah, I'm like, you still have that. Like, doesn't Naruto not look up to Killer Bee? Or that fist bump thing about bonding and stuff? Didn't Naruto make that into his own thing now? After Killer Bee has showed him where he does that with, like, he did that with Kurama or Kurama when they were sharing each other's chakra. Or, you know, or like, didn't he not do it with Boruto when he was congratulating him on the Chunin exams? So I'm just saying, like, it became Naruto's, like, you know, sign of affection and stuff with a lot of people showing you his bond.
B, why did you save me? You knew, didn't you, Master B? You knew all along. That I tried to kill you. And yet you...
You know, I don't remember that happening. All that
that I do remember is Motui and me. Motui and me. Motui and me spending time together, training hard like birds of a feather. We made mistakes, but it was no disaster. And we were always bursting into laughter. The two of us smiling, best of friends forever. The times Motui and me spent together.
Awesome! Yeah! Yeah!
Then Bleach might have arguably some of the best representation out of the big three, with characters like Yoruichi, Yoshiro, Nimiya, if I'm saying his name right, Espada number 3, or Tosin. Yeah, they may not be traditionally African American because most of them are Soul Reapers, but they're still like in high like level positions of power or play like a prominent role into like the story or have a pretty cool design. Like Yoruichi and her brother, like being kind of considered to be royalty. Like, isn't Yoruichi not referred to as a princess and stuff? Or wasn't she not the leader of like that stealth squad? And she was also the mentor, just like how B is to Naruto. Wasn't she also not a mentor to Ichigo at one point? So, and the same thing with Namiya, who, he trained with Ichigo and stuff, and he's actually one of the strongest characters in the series because he's a part of Squad Zero. And if that's the big three, then the same can be said about most animes. Shaman King is a classic 90s to 2000s anime where one of the main characters, Choco Love McDonald, originally Choco did kind of have the pink lips and he actually does have like a gangster background, which you might find that to be a little bit problematic too. But Choco was a young gang member who lost his parents on Christmas, and one day he kind of killed an innocent man because of how much he hated the holidays. Then after like an old man had actually humbled Choco, he trained with him inside Africa to become a shaman. And during the series, Choco is this jokester-like character who's very free-spirited and outgoing person. Eventually, his sins do kind of catch up to him after what he had did, and he's kind of killed by that man's children. And he's, that he had murdered. But he comes back to life. He gets stronger than ever. And he, as an atonement for what he had done, he, wishes to come back but blind, which enhances his senses like a Daredevil type of thing. But yeah, and outside of his story, he also has some cool powers like super speed, aerial kinesis, like he can control the air, the wind, and he's the spirit of the wind. And he has this little jaguar avatar like spirit. And at one point, he was actually stronger than the main character himself, Yo. And he was also part of the final battle against Hao. Yeah, they also kind of took away the pink lips and stuff inside the 2021 reboot. 20 years after learning it was kind of problematic, but still, that's a pretty big deal right there. That's a pretty decent black character right there, right?
So I have a controversial opinion about Chocola, and I'll put it out there. He's one of my favorite characters. I don't mind the way that he's depicted, because if you see that character, and this is why I hate Twitter culture. If you see that character in a vacuum, it's like, okay, it's kind of offensive. But if you actually
from Pokemon type
yeah,
okay, the lips thing,
but if you read the story and you realize that Chocolate is not the only black character in Shaman King, it's like maybe this was intentional, and maybe the author was trying to subvert your expectations about what it means. He's one of the best written black characters we have, and nobody talks about.
Then there's other animes like Soul Eater, like Sid, which Sid is the adopted dad of Black Star, and he's one of the teachers. Sid is in fact black, but Sid, he gets killed originally in the beginning, and then he comes back to life as like a zombie. So that's kind of what he looks like with the blue skin and stuff. But yes, Sid is still black. Then there's Mira and stuff, his partner. Then there's Killick Rung and his partners Fire and Thunder. And then, of course, you have Berserk, like Casca, Guts' main love interest, or Pimpin, who was one of Guts' best friends. Then you have Sprocket from Beautiful Joe, Valkyrie, Yuna from Eden Zero, Rocklock from, and possibly Mirako from My Hero Academia. Those are dark-skinned characters right there. You have Brock, or Brock's dad and stuff as well, possibly from Pokemon and stuff, where they might be considered to be black. They had to go as far as to literally change Brock, or not change Brock, but they had to take him out of the story in order to introduce Tracy because of some people, like the Japanese, thought that black people found Brock to be offensive, but people like Brock more than Tracy, so they had to bring him back over Tracy, right? I'm just saying. And then, of course, in Pokemon, you also have Iris, you have Hop, you have Leon, you have Nissa from Pokemon. And I'm sure if you like actually look around for animes like Fire Force and stuff or Black Clover, they also have black characters too. And the reason why black anime characters like had the pink lips in the past was because their borders were like Japan's borders was closed a long time ago, unlike today. So the only frame of reference they really had was the cartoons and the comics that made its way to the east. The world is a different place from what it was 60 years ago, where we couldn't really connect or communicate online or overseas. And if black people are such a minority over here in America, then they're definitely a rarity over in Japan. So how would you kind of know how would they know our sensibilities from across the world if they're not, here to find out? And that's not to say that there's no racism at all inside Asia, because I mean every race has a history of judging based off of race, especially Africans. But I don't think that it's like that deep as people are trying to make it seem like it is. Now, do I want there to be like an abundance of black representation in anime? No. That's kind of like, when people were complaining about, oh, there's not enough black characters inside Super Smash Bros. I don't care if there's not enough black characters like that inside Super Smash Bros. I mean, the only black character I can think of that's in Super Smash Brothers is probably Rodon, but I can't think of any like character that I would personally myself put inside Super Smash Brothers that's associated with this video game series. What, Barrett or something from Final Fantasy? I mean, you already got Cloud Strife and you already got Sephiroth. Like, come on. Or you already got like Jin, not Jin. You have Kazuya. Yeah, you have Kazuya. You got Sonic, of course. Cloud Strife. Oh, I already said Cloud. You have Sora, Pac-Man. Those are the kind of characters that people want to see in Smash. We don't care about black representation like that. I mean, is it nice to see, to get a little black representation in anime and stuff like that every now and then? Yeah, it's kind of nice. I'm not gonna lie, I like having cool black anime characters and stuff. Like I said, it's not really needed, and I can definitely see outside my race. But I'm just saying, like, it's not really that much of a necessity, though. And are there definitely shows out there with like a black-led character and stuff? Yes, there's definitely animes out there with black-led characters. Not a lot, but I mean, stuff like Afro Samurai. That's a short anime series, like where Samuel L. Jackson literally voices Afro. Or you got Michiko and Hachin, which I have not watched the anime yet, but I heard good things about it and stuff. That's a black, like there's a black female character in there and stuff. I think that's Michiko, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah. And yeah, maybe there might be some obscure anime series out there that I've never heard of that has a black-led anime character. I mean, I haven't seen every anime like that, to be honest. I've seen a lot, but I haven't seen like every anime character, like, or every anime out there, but there probably is one out there. And if you really want a black anime, like a black-led anime character so badly, then definitely support the black content creators or people that want to do more diverse things and stuff with Western mangas and stuff. I mean, there's stuff out there like the Saturday Morning AM series where they got stuff like Apple Black or Clock Striker. I was reading Clock Striker a little while ago and stuff. That's about a black female disabled girl and stuff. It's a pretty nice story for the most part. I know it got into it got a little backlash or controversy because the creator was trying to but he was just trying to put that out there so people can check out his thing. I don't think he was trying really hard to pander and stuff like people thought he was. Or of course, you can check out Corey X Kenshin. Isn't Corey X Kenshin black? Didn't he not step away from being on social media for like a year, and this man came back with like a fully ready like manga out the blue, and everybody was like, holy shit, But yeah, you could definitely support Corey X Kenshin or support RDC World and their whole Imagine That series and stuff. They were doing because they were talking about they wanted to do their own manga and stuff called Imagine That, and they even did a short film about Imagine That, yeah, it's not exactly the most highest viewed video that they have. It's it's got 1 million views, which is still pretty high. I mean, definitely compared to me, but I'm just saying, not like compared to their other videos, which is mostly parody stuff of anime or video games or whatever, yeah, it's not as big as that, but still, go show them some kind of support if you really desire some black lead or whatever, or even make the Stallions anime and stuff that she's making, even though I kind of cringed at some parts, and I'm just also oh, making the Stallions doing her own anime. Well, good for her. But anyways, yeah, so some of that stuff may be definitely Western, but hey, look, I mean, anime is not really just limited to just Japan, or you have to be Japanese in order to make anime. I mean, anime is more of an art style or a genre pretty much, and like just like any other art style, like even like let's take American comics for example, like art styles tend to evolve over time. Like, Jack Kirby or Bill Everett or Steve Ditko, they used to draw black characters or whatever in a certain type of way. Not like it's meant to be offensive. Like, sometimes like some black characters were colored in grayish with like grayish skin because that was the only colors they had available. But, we evolve over time with the technology and with like, the progression of art where, you get to like what from them to like your John Romita seniors to your like your I don't know, your Frank Millers to like your Neil Adams or Dennis O'Neil or George Perez to like the 90s with Todd McFarlane to like I don't know, Jim Lee or Alex Ross eventually. So art is always constantly like evolving, okay? And it's the same thing too with anime where yeah, anime started off with a certain art style back in like the 60s and the 70s and so on where Asuma Tomazaka, that was like his art style. Like he had a lot of like mangas and a lot of animes and stuff, and a lot of people tried to like imitate that, and then eventually a lot of people branched off, did their own thing, and that's how we have like a lot of these various different art styles that we have today, right? So yeah, it's not meant to be like, oh, this is offensive or this is meant to be offensive to black people or whatever, because if that was the case then they wouldn't go as far as to like go out of their way to try and course correct now or do it at least definitely after the 2000s, right? It's almost no different from like, oh, sometimes some people might, especially older people, might call like a Native American an Indian and stuff when that's not exactly the appropriate term. Or, you know, there's stuff like even like let's say me, like I'm a grown man in his 20s and I don't really know like Japanese or Chinese or Korean history like that. Like, at least I wasn't taught that back in like high school, right? And once I like, started watching some movies like, I don't know, Ip Man or the Fist of Fury and stuff, they would actually talk about how like, at one point in time, like back in like the probably before the 1940s, like Japan actually conquered the Asian states. Japan actually conquered China and Korea, right? And I didn't learn that in school. So how would like if I didn't learn stuff like stuff like that in school, how would like the Japanese know what's going on over here in America like that? But that's just something I wanted to point out. But anyways, tell me down below what you guys think. And if you have a favorite black anime character, feel free to tell me about it. I would like to hear about it.